Welcome back, guys. And it's kind of the middle of the summer. See any snow or anywhere? I mean, look, you can see my sweater's on. This is a friend of a friend. He's a friend, but he's a friend of a friend. Smart man, and he left. He basically gave me this at, I want to say, this late spring, along with some other trades and stuff to put towards the bills. This is a really good machine. It's a Troy-Bilt. There's a 24-inch can on this. It's in great shape. It does have a couple of issues. He just wants me to go over it. So this is a nice tune-up. Electric start. It is missing the pull cord. And he says, I don't even need that fixed. I said, yes, you do. I said, because, you know, on Long Island, sometimes we get really big snow. And it starts to rain, and it starts to ice up, and it turns into slush and concrete. And you don't want to be out on the property somewhere, or maybe out in the street, or someplace trying to work a curb cut, and you're far from an extension cord, and it dies because you overloaded it, or you ran out of gas. He goes, oh, yeah, I have to make sure the tank is clean. We want to get in here to the carburetor and make sure the float bowl is cleaned out. This has never been done, so we need to do the valves, and we're going to do an oil change. We're going to make sure everything is lubricated and nice and clean and ready to go. And we'll spit polish it and give it back to him. Make sure all the levers work, everything's been adjusted and serviced. We're going to do the old arch special on it.
Much later.
All right, guys, I just want to finish this off. Now, so this one had a broken cord, and it was just a little bit left. So basically, you could take it out. And then you could run your about 6 feet of length of your new cord in. Put it in, tie it off. And basically just pull the spool and all the way around. And then go around until you hear it click. Especially on this model. And you'll hear it click. And then you can come around very carefully against the spring. And generally one turn does it. If you need a second turn, fine. But I wouldn't recommend any more than that. Because over 6 feet, you're going to break that spring. I need an end because that's missing. I don't think we have that. And here's a nice end. All right, this is I wouldn't say it's super common lawnmower end, but it's a common lawnmower end. These are the ones that years ago. This is a couple of fingers, all right, and this one you get a few more, right? So you can naturally fit, 4 fingers. But the one that I'm going to use, I'm going to take it off of this old motor. Somebody put a new end on, and this is the one. It's still 4 fingers, but the idea of this is that you have a glove on. And this is not really for a lawnmower. This is for a snowblower or a piece of equipment used in cold weather, because you're going to have gloves on. So we're going to just take this off. So we're going to cut that off here. And we're going to put another one on in a minute. And we're just going to come in with this guy and tie a simple knot. But pull the knot back. All right, roll it down. Make sure it rolls backwards in on itself. All right, not by pulling this end, but by pulling on the knot. And now, that's it, we're done. Now, it should come all the way back, which is what it did. All right, so now just to make things a little bit better, we're going to put a little oil here in the center. A little bit of oil on the pivots, on the poles rather. Put a little oil down in where the spring pocket goes, and you can usually find the hook where the spring stay is. And then pull it through a whole bunch of times, and then you're done. All right, we'll be done with that. Well, let's go look at the rest of it.
5 minutes later.
This is your drain. All right, we're going to just loosen that up a little bit. All right, and then the other one is to remove the bowl. So we want to remove the bowl. And I'm just going to check real quick to see. I don't think there's any gas in this.
A few moments later.
You can tell the gas is old, but there's no floaters in it. However, let's just see if we can peek in the tank. See that in there? That's what concerns me. I'm not sure what it is. So, it might just be the finish of the tank, and what you're seeing is just a little bit of debris, but we may want to flush that out. That's what's in the cup. Really nothing. Just a little nonsense in the bottom of the float bowl. I'm going to get up in there and just spray a little bit of gum out and wipe it down and give it a little quick blow, and then we'll put it back together again. This should be fine. I only saw a little bit of junk on the gasket, which I took out, the O-ring gasket. Let's just get in here and give it a little bit of a bath. See all the junk? Look. Yeah, a lot of junk came out. Yeah, alright, we're good. Alright, we're good. That should work. Okay, let's wipe it up and blow it out. and put it back together again. Alright, we got the carb back on, and I kind of aligned it better. It was a little out of kilter. So we got everything tightened up. So this is the main jet sort of stay nut, bowl nut, and then this is your drain, and you want to drain it regularly at the end of the season. So that's all clean, ready to go. Let's get it back on all fours, and we're going to move on to the next step. Okay, on this model of the Troy-Bilt, it's an overhead valve, 179 cc. Looks a lot like a Kohler engine. We want to take that plug out next. It's kind of buried in here. So just take a pair of pliers and just give it a tug, but not from the end. Try to get it from straight on and just give it a pull out, and it will come out. Let's get that plug out and let's check it. Okay, so I got the 13/16, and I put it on a little bit of a wobble adapter because it's kind of tight in there. Not a lot of room to work. All right, so we want to keep the wobble adapter allows me to get in here tight, but keeping the socket square in. And it's on there, boy. Wow, real tight. Let's get it out. It's black and sooty. The threads are moist, but I'm not sure what's on that. It's a little bit dark. It could be a little leaner, but there's not a lot you can do with that. That also could be the gas is getting bad. So let's get another plug in there, so get this one cleaned up. And we'll get it cleaned up nice, and then we'll put it back in there, because it's a good plug. It's still in good shape. They don't go bad, they get dirty. So if you can get them clean enough, you can put them back in. But a lot of times it's just cheaper to put a new plug in.
5 minutes later.
Okay, I got a nice E3 here, which should fit. But I've had some problems with these, so we're going to give it a try. It's gapped, it's ready to go, but we're going to put a little bit of anti-seize on it. I'm not going to put it in yet, though. I've taken the pull starter off, and the next thing we want to do is to make our life a little easier is we want to take the cover off the rockers, get in there and give it a test. And by keeping the plug off and the pull starter out of the way, which was easy to take back off, we can just turn it, right? And we'll be able to very easily go through the valve vents. And since we're in a weird position, we're not up on a bench, that'll make it a little bit easier. It's so new, look at it. But it doesn't even look like there's any oil up in there, so let's see if we can get in for a closer look. Alright guys, I can't really hold everything at the same time, but the valve I'm on right now is the exhaust, and I can barely get 5 thousandths in on that. I had to drop this bar just to make it a little bit easier to get my hands in here. So what I'm going to work on is we're going to loosen that up a little bit and get it set to 8 thousandths. Or even 7, because 5 is too thin. And I have to see if I can get this 5 thousandths in the rocker next to it. So we're going to use a 10 millimeter, and we're just going to loosen that outer nut, and then the inner thing. All right, we should be. There's 2 nuts here. There's an inner and an outer. So this is 10. I think this is 12 or something. So I got to go get a wrench for that. This is the actual adjustment, and this is the lock. Okay, so let's get in there and do that. All right, we're all set. It's really clean in there. It almost doesn't even look like any oil's coming up into it. So we're just going to put a little oil on those 2 spots right there before we close it. We're going to close it up. Just hand tighten it down. Don't wrench it down. And just by hand. So we'll do that. This one I checked out. It's about 5. They both were about 5. We just opened up the exhaust to 7. And that should be fine. Okay, and we've checked it. So we know we're okay. It's not too tight, and it's certainly not loose and ready to come off. And the engine looks really, really good. So we've been in here, we've checked it. We're going to move on to the next step. Okay guys, we just have a little bit of service to do in here, a little bit of cleaning, a little bit of lubricant, a little bit of spray wax, which my chain wax, and we'll wipe that out. Okay, we'll get that nice and clean a little bit, blow it out. But before I do this, what I want to do is I want to pull the oil out, because whatever drips is we're going to be able to clean up. Because if we drip it and it gets in on that, it's going to spoil our job. So let's just put it down on all fours again, and let's get to the oil. All right, so now we're going to go in with a little bit of chain wax. And I like chain wax because it doesn't cause problems, right? It doesn't drip. So chain wax goes on more like an oil, and then it waxes up. It starts to solidify, so it's not going to splash. So this way you can get it on. So we're just going to take a rag and put it over. I have a piece of paper over the disc, and I'm going to put a little bit of a rag right over the rubber here. All right, but we're still going to clean that, but we don't want to overburden it. And a couple spots that we're going to go for is these pivot points. All right, make sure you get it in there good. And just, you know, on the spring, on the pivot point, all up and through here. And now on the gear, and we'll rotate it in a little bit, but we want to get this guy first, okay? So I'm just going to be careful here. We're going to go in over here in the corners, up here in the pivot point, here, here, and back over here, right? All up into the corners. And just, you know, get it on liberally. You'll see we want a good coat on everything. Put a little bit on that gear. You can see it's dripping down a little bit. All right, now we're going to shift it just to spread it around. Okay, get it all the way through. Okay, see how nice that is? We'll put a little bit more on. More on. All right, and that's it. Okay, we want to get into the bearing areas and the on this side as well. Looks real good. We're just going to move it around a few times. I already oiled in here, in these areas here, so we're just going to top it off in these little corners here. And there's a bearing over here which I lubricated from the outside as well. And now we're going to put a little bit of chain lube on it. Both sides. So I already got the oil in. Now I got the cover off on the belt, so we're inspecting that. And you know, the oil is already out. We'll put oil back in later. Okay, because you know, the oil was okay. In fact, I'll show you the oil. But it's older, and he's paying us to go over the machine so he doesn't have to do this again in a couple of years. So that's what we're getting paid for. All right, so we'll blow this out in a little bit. All right, we've captured all the extra gook with our piece of paper. Now the last thing we'll do is we'll clean the disc, because whatever might settle, if you can give it 15 minutes and run it back and forth, you know, it will actually wax up for you. And that's it, we're done here. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to take a little brake cleaner on a clean rag or paper towel. We're going to clean that off, and then I'll show you what I do next. All right, we're just going to put a little bit on the rag itself. We'll get up in here and we'll clean it. You can see it's taking off that little bit of rubber and grease. And when we're done, we're actually going to wipe the wheel down as well with the same product. But we want to get in here first. And you can see it picked up a lot of junk. That's the stuff you want off. Now, you could leave it like this, but we're going to do one more thing, a little bit of Scotch-Brite, and put a little finish on it. All right, we're clean. And I'm just going to put a little bit of acid on it and just wipe it in. This is aluminum bright. Move it around. Yeah, it's cleaning it up all right. All right, so we're going to give it 5 minutes, and we'll be back and we'll wipe it off with a wet rag.
5 minutes later.
All right, so while I washed off the cover, I let that sit, and I just wiped it with a nice wet rag, and just wipe it. All right, that'll neutralize it, and it actually leaves a little bit of a phosphoric compound on it, so it's a precipitate, and it'll protect it. And what you're looking to do is remove any of the glossing or the polishing effect and any grease and rubber. You don't want to overdo this, but we'll take our brake cleaner, put a little bit on our pad that we were using earlier, and just run it once. And that's it. Okay, see? You don't want to overdo this because you'll damage the rubber. So that's it. It's nice and clean. So the second time around it was nothing. The first time it had a skid mark. And then that's it. We can close this up. But before we close it up, we're going to put it on all fours again. And I've taken the belt cover off, and we want to go in and inspect that and maybe lubricate. And we're going to do that before we put this on. Why? In case we get oil or something back in here and we have a contamination issue, or we drop something, a bolt or something. So we're going to go in there and do that first. So, all right, here we are with the cover off. And I just gave it a quick blow and a couple of spots to hit. There's a bearing here. Now, a lot of times they're sealed, but We want to add a little oil to that on both sides. There's also a bearing here and a pivot point here in the spring, and put a little bit on that spring there. And on this one, I wouldn't put anything anywhere else. On this one, the belts look good. We're here again to check on the condition of things. That's our job. There's more life left in these belts. We're not getting paid to prophylactically replace them, but we are getting paid to check them. And what I always say, a lot of people say, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's not our job, all right, really. If it ain't fixed, it's probably broke, which is what I usually say. And in this case, we kind of follow that guideline because we're looking to see, by putting our hands on it and checking it, we're looking to see, you know, what is it needs service, or how long do we have. Now, there is something we can do here. All right, and again, we're always looking for our lubrication points. Here's a spot here, believe it or not. That's a pivot area. Okay, we want to put a little bit there. I put a little bit on the other side, and this is why I like to start lubricating as I go, because worst case is I lubricate it twice. All right, but I don't want to miss anything. We're in here to do a full service. So this looks all good, guys. I'm going to just put these two bolts back on. And there's just two little spots where this cover goes back on, and then we'll flip it back up and we'll close up the bottom and we'll move to the next job. All right, before I flip it, I just want you to see the edge there, okay? That's the sacrificial edge. That's the knife that cuts and scrapes the ground. We're gonna pull that off. So now we're gonna tilt it, all right? We're gonna pull that off, and I'll show you what we do next. All right, so the bolts are down there. We're gonna take them off in a minute, but so we're all done in there, okay, in here, and just in inspections so we know we didn't get any junk anywhere. We've removed all the trash and everything, and that inside of the cover's cleaned off. So let me put this on, and then we're gonna work on these guys down here. We're gonna try and get them off. All right, guys, so what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna straighten this out a little bit more. We don't have to be perfect, but you can see the gnarlies that he kicked up. Really, really bad. So we're gonna get rid of that to start off with. So we're just going to start off with trying to remove this stuff and flatten it so that we don't have so much of a bow to it. Here in the center. Yeah, that's getting better. You know, you're going to have a little bit of wear on the sides, but now we're going to put a little bit of a bevel on it, just a little bit. Remove the junk. Now we're going to turn it around so you can see. And we're going to work this side. This side gets a little bit of a bevel. And we're just going to put the bevel back. Just a little bit, all right? And then we're done. That's it. All right, make sure there's no debris. Okay, and that's it. That's all we need to do. We don't need to do any more than that. You don't want to remove a whole lot of metal off of this. Just get it good and clean. It's a little straighter, and we're going to put it back on. We're going to put a little paint on it. Let's just clean off the bottom a little bit. Come back in with a wire wheel. Okay, let's wipe it. Okay, we got the scraper back on. I put a little rusty metal primer on that, and we're just going to hit it with a little bit of red. All right, just because rusty metal primer is still primer, so I'll just seal it up a little bit. We'll do the same thing, touch up the other side as well. Okay, now we can put it down, and we'll start making our adjustments and a last little bit of cleaning. All right, looks good. Okay, it's serviced, and we'll do our adjustments because we need to basically move these feet, and we don't want the scraper really laying on the ground. And I'll show you in a minute. We want it back a little bit. What we want on the ground are those feet, those adjustable feet left and right. Just gonna shoot a little bit of rusty metal primer down into the can if I can get it in there. Just covering a little bit of it. Right, there's a couple of bare spots, so this is where we're just going to use the rusty metal primer for now, and if it dries well, we'll come back. That looks pretty good. All right, it's going to get scraped again, but it's just part of the service. Okay, guys, so I used as a piece of plastic. All right, and more, more in the center. All right, and we're just going to push down on it a little bit, make sure we're on flat ground. All right, and then we're just going to lean down there, and it's pretty straightforward. All right, we'll tap with the hammer, and let's get it kicked up about not quite an eighth of an inch. All right, just make sure these are flush. This one they're loose, so they're fine. We'll tighten these up, and we're done. Make sure they're flush. A little bit here. Each one doesn't require much. Keep everything moving nice. Moving over the areas where the pins are so that you can get them out easier. Get them sticking up. Give it a minute to drip in. We'll wipe that out. And then we'll throw a little bit of red paint in. All right, let's get a little paint in that. Just want to put a little primer on these edges. Where with this, like a little too much flaking paint. I got some fresh clean oil. Okay, so standard fare, right? No dipstick. If it's on the bottom thread, that's fine. We're closer to the top thread. That's about 20 ounces, all right? And that's more than enough. Let's close it up. Here's a tip, something I always do, because I often fill from different containers or whatever, but just as a matter of practice, I grab a funnel that fits a paint filter, and I pour through that. And it just caught something, okay? That would have been in the gas tank. So we're done. It's obviously easier to do this way. Make sure everything is clean. Just got a little bit of white grease on the top. Yeah, see? Absolutely perfect. Right on the money. So either way you do it, the old school way, right, or the new school way. You may want to put a little bit more fuel in it. Take the choke off. Let's pull it. Let's give it a pull. Going pretty smooth. All right, yeah, eh? Okay, guys, we're all done. There's nothing left to do. We are done. So we've gone through the whole machine. It's a service. We've gone through it. We've done everything from actually, there's only one more thing left to do, which is I'm going to check the air pressure in the tires. And this is a beautiful machine. It runs really sweet. We got the E3 plug in it. That should help out. We've emptied out all of the putrid gas that was in there. We got some fresh gas. I blew out the gas tank. We blew out the engine. Blew out the carburetor. Got all the junk out of that. Lubricated every lubrication point. Checked the belts. We went underneath in the can and we saw what we did there. We got everything lubricated, we got everything cleaned up, and we didn't polish that disc. We actually put a little bit of abrasion scratches on it with the Scotch-Brite and a little bit of acid treatment, so that's degreased and clean and ready to go. We got it all lubed up with chain wax, which is nice because that's like a wax. It goes on like an oil and it dries, well, better than a grease does. So that's all lubricated. We did the scraper in the front and readjusted. So we've got that ground. We added a little bit of rusty metal primer and some paint, covered over the issues down there, whatever was nasty down there, and flaking paint and rusted. That's stabilized. Fresh oil in there. We went over everything, and he's got himself a really good machine. The belts look good. They got quite a number of years left on them. They're not really worn. There's no dry rot. It's been well kept. So, this could be 3-4 years before he needs to do anything, depending on what our seasons look like. So we'll be back, guys. Watch this garage, and I'll see you in the next project. Near date.